How do you envision that shift playing out?
This is my last episode. Today, we're going to jump into an interesting topic, which is carrying the appropriate weight that you're actually able to handle.
I think any partnership only works if there's two separate skill sets. Usually when two people come in with the same skill sets, there's a conflict. Do you think we're at another inflection point?
In what way? Do you want to see my walk? Do you want to see my walk, dude?
Do it now.
No, dude. Oh my gosh, bro.
Some people are not good at life. I'm just joking.
Something should just be a hobby.
Yeah, something should just be a hobby, right? Something just should be. And that's perfectly fine, right? And that's why we chose unscripted, right? Is because naturally conversations are unscripted.
Welcome back to Unscriptd Podcast. Today we're going to jump into an interesting topic, which is carrying the appropriate weight that you're actually able to handle, especially in business, especially when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to navigating how to build something, whether from the ground up or working into something that's already been created. Maybe you're a CEO coming into a company or, multi personnel founded company starting from the ground up, whichever. This came about because of my own realization. We're both men who like to work out.
Yes.
Yeah, this is notorious. Like the beginning of our relationship and our friendship started at working out. Basically, our love for being able to get in there and put your head down and really do some construction on your body. And then that naturally led into us having similar likings and opinions or ambitions towards building companies, because you can kind of find some similarities there, right?
Right.
Sometimes it requires early mornings, sometimes it requires late evenings, sometimes it requires just pushing through. And here recently I started to realize that I can go back and tell you of an experience when I worked out. And I worked out with a gentleman, I won't name names, but he's an awesome guy. And he was using gear and obviously was very, very much further along than I was, especially when it comes to working out and fitness, because he had this crazy advantage and he was utilizing it. And so I found out very quickly that I can't lift or I can't pull down 200 pounds on a lat pull down.
Right.
Like this gentleman could, but I would find myself trying. Then you find yourself in circumstances where you get injured. Now you're out for multiple days and you can't work out, which is something you love to do, etc. You can find yourself in that same position from a business perspective. And I think just some sort of a founder perspective as well, which is what was my revelation. I started to realize that you personally, where you are in life, in your career, the industry that you've chosen to break out into, and you've had some major success, which is awesome, is not the same as my current situation in my 10-year or 14 years in safety, right? It could be similar. We're not there. I had the fundamental issue of I don't like to be the guy you turn around and look at because you're up ahead. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
I think everyone can kind of attest to that a little bit. And so I found that I would try to lift the same amount of weight business-wise as what you could maybe lift. Does that make sense? So the analogy I shared with you was you being able to lift 600 and I come in and try to bench 600s. It's not feasible. I haven't worked up to that. Right. I haven't reached certain levels of stewardship and development. We talked about that in one of our last episodes of taking the leap of faith. Maybe that's just the position I'm meant to be in, is kind of from this learner perspective too as well. But sometimes that's not always making purchases or the things that you're buying, the establishments that you're trying, or the investments that you're trying to make. Sometimes that's just the weight of the project and the weight of the build itself, right? And so let's say you find yourself in a position where your partner that you're coming into business with has already had exits before, has already built businesses before, has that knowledge. Sometimes you have to catch up and your experience of understanding even how even if they're explaining it to you, you have to catch up in experience of going through the process for the first time versus their experience. And you have to have really honest conversations naturally, but you can find yourself, because they navigate a little bit or navigate with ease in some areas, you try to mirror that so that way the weight doesn't feel unbalanced.
Okay.
And like you're not contributing in the same fashion, right? Which we've always talked about, having detailed conversations to align like what everyone's specific contributions are and that sort of thing. You have to have those difficult conversations up front, because everything becomes a shiny object when you're trying to build something cool, right? You have this excitement and everything like that, and you just jump in, you're like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You haven't really weighed out what your contributions are. And maybe that's what I'm trying to get at here is the value, this episode, this topic, finding the value of what your contributions actually are, and then having an agreement there of what that looks like, because otherwise you'll burn yourself out or injure yourself trying to live to the same capacity that somebody else is within the same build or project. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I think any partnership only works if there's two separate skill sets. Usually when two people come in with the same skill sets, there's a conflict of how people want to work, because one person sees how they should be doing it, and they've been working one way versus somebody else has been working the same way, right? So usually, somebody that has two different skill sets is always best, because you minimize overlap and responsibility. And so,
sure,
what I've learned is honestly just staying in your own lane of genius, right? What are you good at? What is it that you're able to do, right? Stay in that lane and do it. Right. And then that is like, you own that lane. Right. And the other person as well. And so most of the time, in my experience, when partnerships go belly up, is that the reason that we just talked about, but also misalignment on the goal. Either somebody's too overly ambitious and not realistic.
That's a big one.
And that's usually mostly, or someone is too conservative in how and their thinking and how they want to grow, right?
Okay.
Conservative growth is not bad as long as it's mixed with the right risk.
Sure.
Yeah. Right? You have to have a certain type, you have to have a certain risk appetite in order to grow something if you're a conservative, right? Versus if you're somebody on the other end that is super visionary, right? That vision can start to spiral, right? And then you have to wean those back in. But normally, somebody that's more conservative and somebody that's more visionary usually bring each other together a little bit better.
Sure.
Because the conservative go, I like it, but here's practically how we do it, and this is how we can do it financially.
Yeah.
Right? And so it brings that visionary in, like, hey, not saying no, but we got to do some things first.
But I'm saying no.
I'm saying, yeah, exactly. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying no right now.
Yeah.
And so, and that's just how it works, right? Like in my experience, in my past business partnerships, right, there wasn't clear alignment, right, and there wasn't a check of those alignments, right, and so because that can change, right, like somebody's initial lane after 2 years can change, right?
That's true, yeah.
But if that person is changing and they're not communicating, then the other person, the other side is going, why'd you change lanes? You didn't give me a blinker.
Yeah.
You know, like you didn't give me a signal that you're doing that, right? And then all of a sudden you're going, well, who's doing that part now? Nobody's doing this part over here now, right? And now we have just a bunch of stuff that got dropped.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the biggest issue. And so I think when you're going to partnerships, partnering with friends is hard. But you have different skill sets, it's easier, right? Because that's the first thing, you're not crossing, right? You can't, it's defined responsibilities, right? You have to define the responsibility, and then you can build on that. You can build a vision together and figure that out. But that's where it starts in my book. Hey guys, we've noticed that some of you have been watching so much of our content, and we really appreciate it. But we also see that some of you have not subscribed yet, and we just want to let you know that it's free to subscribe. It's free to watch the content that we have. You can watch it at YouTube, you can watch it on Spotify, you can watch it on TikTok, but the place to be is YouTube. Go subscribe, click the bell, let us know you're there, and get ready for the next one.
Where do you think there's any areas of like what we've done, because it could be healthy for someone else who might be trying to build a podcast or like another business, where you think that things kind of have shifted? Are there any checkpoints within, like, because we've been doing this for a little while?
Yeah.
Right. And we missed some areas, like we took off for a
Yeah.
little longer, and that was just a necessity from my part. I could probably touch on that because that was a necessity from my part. I had been podcasting quite substantially longer than you at the time.
For sure.
And then to adopt all of this, if you guys can't see it, but like to adopt all of this expectation and process was difficult for me to do. And I think we got 20 episodes in, 20 substantial episodes in of like guests and certain different types of editing, etc. I was so burned out, dude. Come January, I was like, get me away from this thing, because it was intense. It was an intense process, and it is intense trying to really build anything, especially if it should monetize itself eventually. So like, just from your perspective, do you have anything off the top of your mind that you feel like has been like a shift for us? But obviously, naturally, we come back in communication and we realign, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, I think a big one that I think we've even talked about before, right, was the rebrand.
Mhm.
Right. I think there was a misalignment for a little bit there, right? And there's
100%.
there's a tug and pull of like, well, this is how we started it, and this is where we're going, but how do we not lose? Like, how do we not lose our like spark and purpose while we, like, how do you do that? And so for me, what I probably could have communicated a lot better was that's what a rebrand is, right? Is like when somebody is rebranding, when a company is rebranding, right? The goal is, how do we keep the soul but refresh it?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and that was kind of my process. I could explain that a lot better in those moments of time, but that was definitely something that was like, well, no, that's not it. Well, no, well, and then, there's a time that we had to get really frank with each other. Like, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right. Like
it took a little while. Yeah.
It took a little while.
What about this name? No.
What about this name? What about this name? What about this name? Right. And that's just what it is. Right. And I think it's okay to get that. That's a natural thing to happen as long as you're communicating.
Yeah.
Right. Communication is massive in those areas because could you imagine if there was no communication at all and it was just like all right, cool, I guess. Right. You're going to be like, well,
kind of want some input here.
Yeah, kind of want some input, but if I never gave you that, to be honest, I don't think we'll be here. I don't think we'll be sitting here today.
No, of course not.
Right? We won't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about that communication. It's about understanding, right? And so what I wanted out of it, right? We were aligned with what we wanted out of it, but what I wanted out of it at one point was different than what you wanted out of it. So we had to realign in the same circle.
Well, I think even further beyond that is like, what are we going to put into it? Because I think at one point, like, I text you and I was like almost like crying over text. I'm like, what does this mean to you?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember, I was like, I need to hear this from you. Like, what does this mean from you? And it wasn't like an interview. Yeah. But like for me, like if I'm going to go the distance, right?
I have to know you're all in.
Like we need at least, because we don't have to be perfectly identical and similar, which is what makes it so fun. But like we have to know like what's being contributed into it too. And like your response was like so perfect, And that's what I needed to know, especially coming from some of my past encounters, where like I needed to know like how far are we willing to go?
Right.
Which is healthy because like you've challenged me the same ways where it's like, hey, listen.
Yeah. And
this is not working.
This brings up a good question for my question to you. Do you think we're at another inflection point?
In what way?
Do you think that not in like misalignment,
Mhm.
but do you think that kind of what you're alluding to before, when you asked the original question around what was the question that you asked? The original question you asked me that started the conversation, which was, do you think there's any
shifting in
shifting? Yeah. Do you think that's happening now again?
I think naturally, because we're in a unique part of our lives, though, too. We have a lot of personal things that are happening, right?
Yeah, I think, in for context, right? Like, I'm having a daughter and you are having a baby, right? I'm not going to out that.
I'm having a daughter as well. Yeah.
Oh, a daughter. Come on, man.
And we already established that.
And so, there's that life change, right? And there's that natural kind of gravitate to go, okay, let me get into like father figure role, and it's different with a girl. Right. And so you naturally seclude to go, okay, I need to make sure that my heart and everything is in the right place. Right. And so I think it's just a natural progression, right? We're still podcasting, we're still doing our stuff, but it's far in between. So with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think, even though there's a natural shift, I'm actually curious, just from my own thought, of how do you envision that shift playing out?
This is my last episode.
I'm selling everything.
Yeah. Okay. Do you need? No. I don't know, man. Like, the one thing that comes to mind, and this is gonna sound really weird. Like, think about a supermodel.
You got pretty?
I don't think you're pretty at all. And I mean all offense by that, dude. Like, no, but think about a supermodel. Nothing wrong with a supermodel having a child.
Right.
Changes everything for the supermodel.
Right. Their career and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, like, maybe you shift into a different way of supermodeling, right?
Right.
Maybe it's more of that, like, reflection of being at home and being a mother type of supermodel, and like Levi Jean, that whole black and white, like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, the whole black and white concept of, like, I guess, modeling the way that they go home, and they bring it more about, like, the cozy home and that sort of thing versus the runways and stuff. So, like, I have not done this much research. The way you're looking at me, dude, is like,
oh man, I feel like you live this.
Do you want to see my walk? Do you want to see my walk, dude?
Do it now.
No, dude. Oh my gosh, bro. Grab the camera. Like, I don't give a damn. No, what I'm saying is, like, it might not end the career, but, like, you have to definitely shift how things are done. And Waylon was a big shift already, my son, when he was born, and trying to do this. And that's where I push back on, I don't think that in some areas I made some right decisions towards the progression of the podcast versus my foundation, like, at home. And nothing's happening at home. Nothing's wrong with me and my wife or my son. But, like, if I think maturity is seeing where things are starting to shake, right? And so if it comes to the podcast, sure, I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea what, like, the next 3 months are going to look like. But I know that we've had fun, and I know that we've hit the like, not pivot points, but the pivotal points of this thing multiple times, and we've clashed, but not to fight, but to clash, to get on the right momentum. And I think that was something like you really were thinking about here recently, was, like, momentum and the power of it. We clashed to, like, sharpen ourselves for that next push of momentum, because we know how much it takes. We know that our time is shifting. You have a little less of it, a lot of less of it, especially when you're having a kid, and you find yourself trying to make the most impact in these episodes. And that's where I think it's healthy to take a step back and, like, really try to reflect on where you are. Because the more you try to do that, especially if your life gets busy, you're building something that requires a lot of busyness, you try to do too many things and cover too many areas at one time, that you just, I hate to use a different word, or I wish I had a better word, but you half-ass it.
Yeah.
And then, like, your content's, like, terrible, and it's like, what's the...
Right.
No, definitely not, dude. I think this is an exciting point, right?
I think this is an exciting point. I think it's an inflection point, right? I think everything has an inflection point of you go, okay, something is about to happen. Now it becomes a new mission, or now it becomes a new vision. Now, right, there's a lot of things that happen. This is why companies build. This is why Facebook started, as a social media platform, that has turned into, a leading technology company, right? Like, at some point there was inflection points going, oh, there's more. Oh, there's something else that we can have impact on, right? And I think that's
And it's hard not to want to like drag like
absolutely
your family into it, and
well, yeah,
you kind of start wanting to podcast a little differently. Yeah.
you want to podcast differently, right? But you podcast a little more maturely, right? Like, let's take Stephen Bartlett, right?
Okay.
Of Direct CEO. Like, how he podcasts at the beginning is not how he podcasts today,
Sure.
right? There's a difference. You see the evolution of how he podcasts, and not only just from an editing and production standpoint, but how he asks questions, or how he does things, right? You see that progression because he is maturing, he is gaining more knowledge, he is doing more things, right? And so you see that entire piece for him, right? And that goes for anyone, right? At some point, like, who you are today is not who you are 5 years from now.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
There's
I'm a firm
maturity
believer in that.
there's
Yeah.
maturity in that, and that goes for a business, right? That goes for a business, that goes for a hobby, that goes for anything, right? How you start woodworking is not how you end up woodworking. Well, maybe some people, but it's you just might not be good at it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people are not good at life. I'm just joking.
Some things should just be a hobby.
Yeah, some things should just be a hobby,
Yeah.
right? Some things just should be, and that's perfectly fine,
Yeah.
right? But if you believe it should be something more, then treat it as such,
Yeah.
right? Go all in and treat it that way, right? Because if it's always just this thing and this hobby that you get to do, then that's just what it is. Let it be, right? But if you're like, no, I see this going somewhere. I see a vision for this. Then make sure you fulfill that, right?
Yeah.
Go all in and do it, right? And for us, I think there was an inflection point where we did the rebrand, or when I first came on over a year ago, was, okay, well, what is this to you? I'm like, cool. This is cool. This is fun, right? Let's keep that energy,
Yeah.
And so, is that your lip gloss?
Modeling days aren't over, baby.
But it's those inflection points that allow you to grow. Lip gloss be popping.
This is officially my last podcast. Yeah.
With me.
Did you say lip gloss be popping?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Name that chick, dude. What's her name? I can't
I don't
remember.
even know, bro.
Oh my gosh, dude. That is a classic.
Lip gloss be popping. Lip gloss be cool. Something. I don't know. But
yeah.
There's inflection points that allow you to grow and become that person that you set out to be, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, with the business, it's the same thing, right? Like, you started it, and maybe there was a pivot, right? There was a pivot for us, right? And that was the rebrand. It was like, oh, like okay, like, we're not just going to just talk to startup founders. That's it, right? How do we expand the scope of people that we talk to, right? How do we expand that, right? How do we not only talk to founders and people that have exited, but how do we talk to doctors? How do we talk to lawyers? How do we talk to, civil rights activists? How do we talk to different breadths of people, right? Because somebody that's come up and is a leader in the community can have such a similar story to a startup founder, and they can still learn from each other very, very vastly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good
And
way of looking at it.
So it's like, well, and that was kind of the vision that we had, was like, okay, we don't want you to just be this one man army running up a mountain to one thing, right? We wanted to have interesting conversations that weren't being that were pulling back the curtain to say, of going, these are the type of conversations that we want to have, right? They want to be interesting. I want to learn, right? But I also just want to be a part, to be able to tell, maybe it's somebody's story, right? Or maybe it's important information that people need to know, right? Or maybe it's, you name it, right? Those are the conversations that we're having, right? And that's why we chose unscripted,
Mhm.
right? Is because naturally conversations are unscripted.
Well, and I think I had an interesting injection there. I think it's important to tell your story because as things progress, especially from the podcasting world, and you have different people that you're learning from and you're talking to, you don't ever if you're never communicating what your story is, then every guest is getting the same version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're just learning, sometimes you have to spill it back out on the table.
Yeah.
And so we've seen a lot of that here recently. Season 2 was going and getting every episode has to be a guest. I want to be completely honest. If I'm just only going to talk about business, I'm bored.
Right.
I'm bored. I'm stressed because I feel like I'm back at work, and I work way too much right now, and so us being able to communicate and go, hey, I'm feeling like a little overwhelmed here. I can't, I'm not having leverage here. Just going back to the original perspective of this episode, which was knowing what you can carry, knowing what you can contribute, what your capacity is, what your limit is, right? I know that for me, if it's only talking about business but then at the end of it, in my spirit, I know that's not my purpose might not be to see the growth and fruition of this big corporation, not the podcast going to be it. But if I'm constantly talking about business to business people, but I want to know how you're doing. You know what I mean? That impacts me. That makes me feel like I've just received $1 million check. Sometimes just knowing how you're doing.
Yeah.
And hearing the way that God, or even just the way that you're having thoughts and or making it through things, I'm really passionate about postpartum, for men. That's a experience. You know what I mean? And that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh man, we got to talk after this.
Dude, that's a crazy experience.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about that right now, So it's I would love to go off on a mini series and do that for a podcast. Is that realistic? Absolutely not. Because I know how difficult it is to podcast. But what I'm saying is injecting yourself into the podcast. What we're doing these episodes personally is getting us prepared for the next guest that we have.
Yeah.
Because we are developing as well alongside the people, just like Steve Bartlett, he's developing every single day to be a better host and not just the same host that he was on the previous episode or the previous season or whatever the case is for them. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for business. Know your capacity, communicate those capacities to the people that you're in business with or founding anything with to have those honest conversations. Realistically, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, I can't imagine that you're going to communicate your capacities and they're going to turn around and go, you're too slow. In some circumstances, maybe.
Right.
Then you have to define yourself on whether or not you actually want to be in that if you're even ready for that circumstance. Go back to the drawing board, learn more, and then apply yourself depending on what the industry is or the challenge is, right? And inject yourself there. But if that person understands you and you understand what the end goal should look like, most often than not, they're going to go, okay, let's, like you said, those reflection points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. That's actually pretty solid advice.
Communicate. Don't be afraid of the hard conversations.
That's honestly, that's the biggest piece, as you said, right? Don't be afraid of hard conversations, right? And most people don't realize that avoiding hard conversations makes you passive, right? And so
it also makes you what's the word for it? Spiteful.
Exactly.
Later on, when you're like, oh, my ideas aren't being used or considered, or blah, 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 whatever else. This doesn't feel like my company anymore.
Yeah.
I went through that. Hey, stop pulling and tugging at the Days In podcast. This is something that, and I had to you grabbed each finger and you're like, hey man, it's going to be perfectly, it's going to be perfectly fine, dude. We are going to be that and this, and it's going to be fun. Right. And I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That communication's so important. And guess what? I don't know if you can attest to this. The hardest conversation you are going to have is not going to be the one where you go, I don't like your idea. It's going to be the one where you go, hey, this isn't working anymore. Let's not do this anymore. That's the hardest conversation. And I don't know where we trick ourselves into thinking that all the rest of them feel that urgent. They're not.
Right.
Go, hey, I don't like the way that you talked about this, or I don't like the way you deflect like my idea, or those aren't the same as, hey, this business is no longer working or dissolving tomorrow.
Right.
That's a difficult conversation.
That's 100% difficult conversation.
But we are stuck in this like loop of feeling like all the little extra things,
Right.
curricular ideas and concepts and topics or conversations have that same urgency, and it's not right.
Yeah, 100%, man.
How do you tell the audience to overcome that?
I tell them to
overcome adding that same layer of urgency to every type of conversation that they might be having in business.
Practice. You just have to do
Practice
it.
conversation?
No, not practice conversation by doing it. Right? Like,
how do you overcome that fear to like look your co-founder in the eye and go,
it's not as bad as you actually think it is.
Stop wearing black.
Oh, that was personal.
No, not at all.
I wore gray on the first one.
Yeah.
I wore gray yesterday, right? When we did our podcast yesterday, I wore gray.
Lying.
No, like full attack right now.
I'm sure you've overcome that, like
no.
how
For me, it was honestly, like, if I'm being honest, like for me, it was okay. What is the worst that could happen? Like, what is the worst situation possible? Right? And I guarantee you it's not that. Right? There's times when it is. But that's just what it is, right? You can't control how somebody reacts to you. Right? And you can't be responsible for their feelings and for how they're feeling it, right? You can only be responsible for how you deliver it. Right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Deliver or compassion and care and you're fine. Right? Just be sure don't pacify the conversation though, right? Don't go like, have you heard of the sandwich method? Right? Hey, look, you're doing great. You're doing love the ideas you brought to the table yesterday.
Holy smokes, dude.
And then
you're triggering me here. Yeah.
Right.
Every safety director, yeah.
Exactly. And so don't do that, right? Just get straight into it. Hey, I want to talk to you about some things that have been on my heart, and I really think that they're important enough to bring up to you, right? And then go for it, right? But compassion and care, if you're leading with compassion and care, you're fine, right? Who cares? It doesn't matter at that point what happens, right? Because how they react is how they react, and that's their own reaction to it, right? They're responsible for that, not you, right? And so, and just do it. And you do that enough times, like it becomes easy in different ways to be able to bring things up, that land better and allow, that's not to say that you're saying things in a way that pacify, right? It's different. It's just being able to communicate how you feel and what you're looking to get out of the conversation better, right? And so if you can communicate that better, then all you're doing is becoming a better communicator over time, right? And then that's how you get better at it. That's how I've gotten better at it. Is going, okay, like I've told many managers no.
Oh yeah.
Right. I'm like, no, I'm not. Sometimes it's just straight up no. Other times I'll give a reason. Right. But my mom told me that no is a complete sentence, so that's what I go for sometimes. Right.
That's not a bad way to look at it.
So if they ask for why, I'll give them a reason. If not, then don't worry about it. Right? But at the end of the day, and that goes for anything. It's okay to like put boundaries around whatever it is that you're doing, right? And put boundaries around anything that you need to, right? To protect your own peace, whatever it is, right? And the other person should do the same thing. And so do that, be compassionate, and lead with care. You'll be just fine.
Yeah, and it was really well put. And be okay, especially if this is your first time around this rodeo.
Right.
Be okay with letting go a little bit.
Oh, 100%.
It's the business that you're growing shouldn't be a personal feeling.
No.
You know what I
I
mean?
think if you
Like,
tie your business to how you feel, it's a destined for failure.
and you need to listen to the person, especially if they're across from you, investing in it as well, and they understand what that feels like and what the end result of that is. You need to listen to that person, and it's okay to feel, just like you've talked about, to feel like the novice. That is a whole nother podcast and a hard place to be in, because though we know how beneficial it is to be the novice in the room, it's one of the hardest things to do in business.
Man,
I don't want you to make me feel like I'm less or inferior than you.
yeah.
And that's what makes you try to lift 600 pounds like your counterpart. And it's just not healthy.
Man, that was a good wrap up to that, man. That was actually really solid.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully you got some value out of this. You guys know where to watch every deliverable, streamable area, YouTube specific.
Deliverable and streamable. Rhyming crap now?
Fungus. No.
Fungus.
Anyways, you guys know where to watch this. Support.
Absolutely.
If you're not subscribed. If you're not subscribed already, please do. It means the world to us. Like, comment, share. Give us your thoughts. We want to be able to interact. We want to be able to bring that into this, this environment to answer some of those questions that you guys might have.
Absolutely.
And just wait for the next one.
Awesome. And sign up for our newsletter. We'll have it linked below. We have just launched it, so much appreciated for you guys signing up. Thank you for all the ones that I already have.